like it's been spoken since days of our youth. The feeling was lost with the Jews. Oh, the feeling was lost at the cost of the Jews.
Hey everybody, welcome back. Psychedelic here. And tonight we got another entry for you in the Acid Archive series. It's a thread started by Seeking a Thread. You all know what's going on here. And today I'm going to be doing one of my all-time favorites. This is one that's been on the short list for a long time, ever since the whole series started over a year ago now. And I know that Dylan at Noble Records covered this one as well, but let's just say the volume in that room was cranked to 11.
Some of them say that maybe it's in an alternate dimension. Who knows?
I love the video, but we're going to mellow things out here a notch. You know, we're going to take it down a little bit and maybe clear up some misinformation about it, because I know Dylan, I even left a comment on his video like over a year ago now, where he was very excited about the whole alien abduction lore and stuff, but we're going to kind of smoothen some of that out and show, and I kind of wanted to share my love for this as well, because this is one I was going to plan on doing even if someone did cover this, because to me this is one of the top 3 records, private press records, that got me into the whole thing to begin with, and what a way to launch me into that world. So what are we talking about today? Well, I got 2 copies of this. I'm going to show both copies. You could say the original copy is a grail for me, because it is something I am seeking after heavily, but it's almost out of my price range. I mean, this thing goes for over $1,000 anymore, and they only press so many. So we're talking about Justen, O'Brien, and Jake, Time Will Tell. I always think this came out in 77, but I think it was recorded over the 2-year span. So recorded in 76-ish to 77, came out in 78. And this is a bootleg here, like unofficial, from Sweden. This is number 6 of 300. Psychedelic Guy on YouTube, Alex, handed me this copy probably 10 years ago now, and I've just kept this one ever since. And I have come across another copy of this particular reissue in Omaha, and I handed it off to Turntable Currents. Where you at, man? Nathan, who's a long time vinyl community member and a long distance friend. Been out of touch a little bit lately, but hope you're still out there watching, man. Got to hand this off to someone that would appreciate this, and someone that I looked up to for quite a while in the vinyl community days, because he was an early member and just loved all that. He was really one of those that was just showing all the psychedelic stuff early on. So, well, anyways, Time Will Tell. This is pretty much an exact replica of the original, minus having the copyright on the bottom of the rim here on the label. Otherwise, you know, it's probably a little better condition considering the sleeve on the original. I think I did hold an original when I was out in Chicago on Alex's pad, so I did get to see an original copy here. Definitely gives you some Uncle Rico vibes, right? With that pose. And this was actually the sleeve idea that they had to go with, because it was a lot cheaper printing this out in sepia tone. And the originally intended cover is on this Justen copy, which is right here. Don't know if it contains the same magic. I mean, I love the idea that he's, you know, out in the Badlands playing his guitar, but something about that original gives it a lot more mystiqueness to it. Kind of like, what is this about? You know, got that old English font, just the simplicity of it, and you get something like this, you know, even though this doesn't have much color to it in the first place, they had to reject this due to the price to print it, I guess, was a lot at the time. And very nice, devoted Justen release here. This came out in, like, I think 2000, pretty early, I think 2008 maybe. There he is in his studio. One of the questions I always think of, it's like, I still don't know the answer to, where did this young guy get his money from? I imagine he's probably like in his late 20s here, Justen, but it's like, man, that's some high-end equipment. And you hear it on this record too, and that's Justen Other Studios. Get it? That was actually in his basement of his house. Got the TX tape machine, and there they're cutting the vinyl there. Got all them liner notes. And at the time, that was his wife. You'd think that'd be maybe his mama at the time, but no, that's him and his wife at the time. And I believe they split maybe like the early 80s, I think it was. I think it's listed in here or something, but some great liner notes. We'll get to the music eventually, but I'm going to fangirl out on this for a minute because, man, I discovered this probably back in like 2015. I remember I was still in college, you know, about my last semester, and I was just digging through lists on Rate Your Music, and I just remember this cover just sticking out to me like, what is this about? And people were saying it's kind of loungy psych and got this kind of loner disco feel to it. I'm like, what? And just trying to grasp and wrap my head around what the idea of what private press means, meaning that there's just a whole real world of people out there that just wanted to passionately create their own music, and this guy had everything right at his fingertips as far as the engineering board and, like I said, that high-end equipment. He also recorded a few other albums around this time too, out in, I believe it was Tioga, North Dakota. Forgot to mention that. North Dakota, of all places. Can you name any records recorded there that better than this one? I don't think so. But yeah, way out west in North Dakota, and I do believe this got cut at like Minneapolis or something. Yeah, Sound 80, Minneapolis, Minnesota is the remix, and mastered there. Well, mastered, I guess, at his studio, but yeah. So this Jake guy, I guess he was the drummer, is that right? Pretty sure I got that right. Yeah, because he went by Mark A. Jacobson, but his nickname was Jake. So don't know a whole lot about him. I think I read into him a little bit, and it sounds like maybe they kind of split different ways after this. You know, wasn't heavily involved with into Justen's life, perhaps, but I'll be showing some photographs here as we roll along. I'd like to read a little bit in the liner notes just to give you an idea what you can expect from this. So, Rich Hopped, obviously of Rockadelic, he's heavily into the whole private press scene, like very much like I was. You know, been kind of slipping out of it a little bit here and there lately. When the right record comes along, I'm always ecstatic to hear it. But we'll read a little bit of this. It says, sometime in the mid-90s, reputed Psych Mafia Don, Rich Hopp made first contact with the Justin O'Brien record at PDQ Records in Tucson, Arizona. Some weeks after that road trip, Hopp finally had a listen. Hopp writes, the LP was a personal journey that visited the depths of loneliness and the heights of alien abduction. I was at a loss at how to describe the music I was hearing. Loner disco, extraterrestrial, singer-songwriter. This was in its own non-existent category, which I very much agree with that. I was hooked. I began to play it for friends. One night I had a buddy over who was a record collector and a biker in a literal sense. I played the record and it took a hold of him like an inexplicable emotion. His mind was melted. It almost brought him to tears. He still tells me today that there are times when he can't listen to the LP because of the aura that it creates, and his mood has to be just right to be able to handle it. So, if that tells you anything, I mean, the energy, the power of this music, constructing it over a couple years time frame, you can really tell that he put a lot of love and rehearsed the hell out of whatever was going on in that studio. I mean, he had all the time in the world, right? He didn't have a producer or engineer trying to rush him in the process, and he just really created this whole world within his studio where it's like, it's got the production of like sort of a disco record, you know, like the late 70s kind of production style, but so cosmically done. It's insane. You know, you got a lot of these like really cosmic keyboard synthesizer effects happening throughout, but not in like a really cheesy way, but in a very like expensive, high-end kind of way. Especially on like tracks like, what's a good track? Like Just Love. It really shows on that one, the second track on side 2. But almost every track, there's only 8 tracks on here, but every single moment, it's like you can tell he put all the verses, all of the segments in the right place, from intro to the conclusion, and even as far as like the album flow itself, very much has like a very sort of optimistic opening, and then you have like a little bit of a tension in the middle section with like easy times. Are you ready to leave this planet? It's like getting ready to lift off. And then you have like some of the peak tracks in the middle portion with tracks like The Feeling Was Lost with the Truth, which is like probably my favorite off of here. And then right on the flip side to The Way, which has its only inclusion of saxophone on here by Joel Selinsky. And it's just like it's like an outcry. It's just like an outcry of like what he's going through just emotionally. Like he's kind of lost, but has all this love in his heart. It's really hard to explain. And you got tracks like These Moments Now. That track was actually comped on a numeral group lounge comp not too long ago. Might be my least favorite if I had to choose a least favorite out of here. These Moments Now I don't listen to as much as the others. But then it ends on a track called Alone. It's almost like, I always visualize, it's almost like this album takes place overnight. And Alone just sounds like a sunrise. It's like the sun's out, it's a brand new day, tomorrow's here, everything's okay kind of feeling. And that's the feelings I get from this one. And, I don't listen to it as heavily as I used to, say in like the late 2010s when I was like just on a high for this record, just trying to tell everybody about it. I don't know what Justen was on, man, but he experienced some real shit, man. I don't know if I can get too much into the liner notes. There's so much to dive into here, but apparently there's like 1,000 copies that were pressed. It says like a lousy sounding repress from the late 90s appeared. I think they're talking about this one, which may have some compression in there. I think the Gearson does sound better than this, but I do love to have this just for history's sake, but also just being a fan of this record and love having the original artwork. But yeah, Gearson did a really great job. It's got this kind of soft feltness to it as well. Really good. They always come out with great quality. I don't know, there's some story where it's, I guess, definitely in the lyrics of Are You Ready to Leave, where it's like, are you ready to leave this planet? Definitely has some like extraterrestrial stuff going on in the lyrics, but that's about really the only track. But otherwise, the music itself does feel very floaty, very spatial, and like you're just like kind of whizzing in the air, and it just has like this midnight sensation kind of doused in the mix. And I guess concerning the whole UFO alien abduction-ness about it, I think Jake was the one that actually had supposedly seen lights in the sky. And a place like North Dakota, I mean, you can get away with that, I'm sure. There's definitely some strangeness out there in the wilderness, but Jake had apparently seen some lights in this small town or out in the countryside and got interviewed about it. And he was just kind of a strange dude in general, I think. So that's kind of where the lore comes from. But the album definitely plays out sort of like a cold case, like almost like a missing persons kind of record, because it's like for the longest time before the internet, how did we even know about this guy? And it's like, this record is so good, it's like, what kind of human being created this little enigmatic kind of release, So that's what kind of drives the mystique about it. It's like so well crafted, but we don't know a thing about this man. And that's really about the time Gearson got a hold of him, and he was working as like a DJ out in Alaska. It's a radio station called KMBQ, which I don't know if he still DJs to this day, but I did choose to stream it on their website one day, and you can definitely tell that guy's got a radio voice, man. Justen, And you can tell by comparison, he's still got that kind of golden voice for radio. And there was a time where I think I was like, you can request a song on their website, and I jokingly, in joke, requested to play Easy Times from this album. He was probably like, oh, it's another one of those fans. If I can find it, I did find a more recent photo, because they do like events, you know, at the radio stations. A lot of people do, you know, certain events around town, whatnot. And I guess he goes by the DJ name Cookie O'Brien. I don't know if Cookie's kind of his nickname now or not. If I had to pick some big tracks off here, I mean, my top two would probably be Easy Times. It just, so cosmic and so, just got this whole blue hue of sound just kind of washed over everything that's going on. You got this kind of phased guitar work, you know, which makes it very psychedelic, but not in like traditional 60s way. You got other tracks with incorporating flute, like my other second favorite track, The Feeling Was Lost with the Truth. Just has this just high energy, very up-tempo, never misses a beat on that rhythm section. It's just fascinating. All the drum fills, the fuzz guitars that pop out here and there. Very celestial, ethereal, in the best way. And yeah, that lounge flavor does come through as well. The fact it has this kind of just very sophisticated, kind of glossy, golden, sepia tone sort of sound to it, which in a lot of ways can reminisce, you know, a lot of those disco records at the time. I forgot to mention too, Jolene O'Brien was his wife at the time. She does keyboards on The Way. As far as like other records that he produced in his studio, I know there's like a couple Christian records which don't really have his magic touch like this one does, but he at least engineered it and produced it from the studio. And that's how I was able to find Tioga, North Dakota on one of those records at the time, because I was like, where did he record this at? I had to find out. And there is a somewhat loosely second Justen O'Brien record out there, which is called Lady Free by Doc Holliday. And that one came out some years later, I think 1980. It definitely has a couple moments where it's very Justen heavy. It's got that kind of flourishing cosmic keyboard synthesizer happening on there. I think it's the track I Was Dreaming Last Night, or something Dreaming Last Night. I have it on my Cosmic Minds channel. It was one of the very first videos I uploaded.
I dreamed I went sailing last night across the wide open sea. The wind was as calm as a desert island palm, but the sails were as full as could be.
When I found that track, and again, I have seen an original copy of that, and that one might even be more rare than this Justen record, and definitely doesn't have the same hype. It's a little more subdued, maybe a little more on the folk rock side, but this one just has the whole package, what we're looking for when talking about these private records. Just has a lot of character, a lot of persona to it. It's the old Gearson label. I could go on and on about this one. We haven't even gotten to the book yet, but that's okay. Just have a lot of love and appreciation for this one. I've talked about it quite a bit over the years, maybe not so much here on YouTube. And it's one of those records I formally forgot to, every time I would do an update video, I actually formally forgot to show this one in the past, like on an update video, but this is making up for it, I guess. So, Justen O'Brien and Jake, time will tell, and it certainly has told us. I also wanted to mention too, I always thought I'd put this on like a t-shirt, you know, him sitting in his little studio there, but would anyone get it or ask me about it? Probably not. But anyways, let's dive into the Acid Archives, and I do know about this review pretty well. It's pretty well inept and pretty well described by the GOAT, Patrick Limborg. 1978, no label. It's got the 3 to 4 rarity, which is pretty true. I'd say it's, you know, still about the same to this day. At the time this was printed, we only have a 2001 Mystic out of Europe. Maybe that was the CD. Not really sure about that. I think the CD, I think there's a Japanese CD that has some extra photographs. I might try to include them if I can find them. One of the more recent finds to be introduced to a wide audience. This is an atmospheric 1970s singer-songwriter loner rock trip from the depths of Middle America. Time Will Tell hits a subtle yet unique spot that is hard to describe in words, but it is somewhat reminiscent of the loungier side of D.R. Hooker, with idiosyncratic vocals and a glitzy mid-70s production with keyboards up front and fairly professional playing. The total effect is like driving around in late-night Minneapolis looking for some action, but instead ending up alone in an airport hotel lounge. Wow, I love that. A desolate 2-drink minimum neon light trip of creeping originality. An alien abduction theme figures somewhere in the background, but it may take many plays before you notice it. I like this, but it may not be the first LP you recommend to psych newbies. And that last statement is very true. It's definitely not one you want to dive into. You know, pretty much discover all you can from Europe and US traditional psych sounds. And once you start getting into the weeds, you know, get a little more into the private press world, you know, you might want to slip this one on maybe after your 5th or 6th record, perhaps. But yeah, I also forgot to mention too, one of the big characteristics of this record is the vocals, and definitely has a kind of a loungy crooner kind of sound. May have to warm up to it a little bit, but you will find out that it does match the music pretty well. It's just got this very husky, very humane, dominating, kind of operatic at times kind of style. But I love it. I mean, I had to adjust to it after a couple listens. I'm like, that's kind of a weird choice, but hey, it's his voice, right? Can't change your voice too much, but anyways, yep. I'm really glad I covered this one finally. This one's down for the books. Yeah, so let me know what you think of this record if you've heard it. I'd really love to hear your response down in the comment section. Because I just don't think it, you know, I mean, there's like a certain percentage of collectors and deep listeners that understands our love for this. And some people, you know, normies may not understand, but I get it. There is a magical presence on this record that is almost undescribable. It's just like, it's like he's just trying to reach something larger than life. And it's like he's traveling through the wilderness, the loneliness, swamp, and just trying to swim his way out of it or something. Finds himself at a hotel lounge. You know, I love that. Not only a hotel lounge, but a hotel in the airport lounge. Hits a little differently. But anyways, I've dragged this on long enough. Let me know what you think of this. Another one down in the Acid Archives. Thanks for watching.